Ben Shapiro has been caught simping again. So today I came in and I was totally expecting to only talk about the TikTok ban. I mean, that is a huge story. And as someone who started on TikTok, I do have a special place and have a special place in my heart for it. But I also have a special place in my heart for simps. And I think simps are a sad case because many of them just really need help. They are willing to die on the hill of OnlyFans whores and women taking accountability for nothing while holding men accountable for everything. Now, I saw a clip of Ben Shapiro talking about how the right should dump Andrew Tate. Now, am I the right? Am I not the right? I don't know. I guess I'm going to find out. So,
for the inauguration of Donald J. Trump as the 47th president of the United States. Watch live. Join the fight at dailywire.com/subscribe. I want to start today with a controversy that erupted online, but is sort of indicative of a broader problem that the right currently has with, say, the influencer class. This controversy erupted because Benny Johnson had on Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, for those who don't know, is an online provocateur. He is mostly famous for one time being a kickboxer, and now he sort of runs around with his shirt off with fancy cars and good-looking women and smokes cigars and says...
Is that a bad sell for men? Are young men going to see this and be like, a guy who's jacked and runs around with sports cars and hot women? Let me just turn the TV off. Okay, hold on. Also, guys, if you do have a comment that you want me to read, go to the audacitynetwork.com and sign up for our monthly or yearly memberships. If we get 8 a show, we can become YouTube free by the end of the year. So normally you're going to have to read super chats. You have to donate every single time. All you have to do, $10 a month, unlimited comments. You just put Pearl Read in the comment section.
As some things that are sort of useful critiques of the left, but mostly says crazy stuff online, and he has generated an enormous following. So Benny Johnson had on Andrew Tate, and he also had on at the same time Alina Habba, who is a counsel for the Trump team. And Alina Habba was really praising Tate, and so was Benny Johnson. And this erupted into a controversy. Here's what that sounded like.
Nice to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Well, nice to meet you. I'm a fan. You're the one saving Trump. You're doing more important work than me.
America, not just Trump. And I agree with everything you just said. And I think that
Now remember, the way women dress, they're signaling something. So if she's going on a show with Andrew Tate and she's coming with her boobs out, what is that signaling? I don't know. You guys can be the detectives here, all right?
Her anger is the same that President Trump has for our country. And the time is now for us to stop being wimps. I think that's exactly the right sentiment. And I also have to say that I sympathize with you because I think you go through a lot of the same, show me the person, I'll find the crime that President Trump has gone through.
Okay, what Alina Habba is saying there is not actually true about Andrew Tate. He is not of the same ilk as President Trump. Find me the person and I'll find you the crime. That is true of President Trump. That is not particularly true of Andrew Tate. And Russell Brand, of course, rushed to the defense of all of this. Russell Brand then suggested that anyone who objected to the treatment of Andrew Tate on the right, that they needed to sort of check their problems at the door. Here was what Russell had to say.
Someone like Andrew Tate, with the audience he has, could make a significant difference if correctly backed. He does say some stuff that's pretty out there. But the fact is, in a democracy, if someone is able to glean popular support, they can have a mandate. They should be represented. I suppose what's more significant and interesting to me is the way that figures like Andrew Tate or Tommy Robinson have always been maligned, I think, to place an impassable threshold around systems of influence and power. You can have your own views of Andrew Tate. You might think he's misogynistic or vulgar, but the fact is he appeals to a lot of people and he represents some things that a lot of people are very interested in.
Okay, so I think that the way that some people are defending Andrew Tate today is a conflation of a couple of different ideas. So I think there is a big difference between having people on, have whoever you want on. That's totally fine. Free speech and all the rest. That's totally fine. And cheering on bad people who don't actually care.
But see, now what is he doing? This is why people hate conservatives, okay? I'm going to virtue signaling. He's signaling, I am the more moral guy. He is not as moral as me. And what always tends to happen is later we find out, and I'm not saying this is true with Ben, but we often find out that they're not as moral as they've been signaling for years. Because again, what is the money in? Signaling morality. They think that they're the arbiters of morality.
About your principles. And Andrew Tate is the latter. Now, again, let me say right at the outset, I am not upset at all with anyone actually just interviewing Andrew Tate. Go for it. Have at it. There are tons of excellent questions to ask Andrew Tate, but none of these people are asking.
But you can't get along with someone too well that I deem immoral. I, as a grown man, am going to tell you, another grown man, how to run your show. The audacity. The audacity. You have millions of people that watch you. Why are you... If he wants to bring him on and not ask him tough questions, that's his choice.
Andrew Tate any of those questions. Instead, a lot of people are sort of glomming on.
Answer my questions. I have the right questions. I'm the smart guy. I have all the right questions.
To his very online popularity in order to get clicks. And some people are dishonestly conflating interviewing Andrew Tate with cheering for Andrew Tate or applauding him or talking about how brave and wonderful he is. And Andrew Tate is not brave and wonderful. He rips off thousands of people with his Scam Hustlers University. He preaches the virtue of treating women in a way you would never, ever allow anyone to treat your wife or your daughter.
Now, I want to show you, you can tell, this is why I say money, looks, status doesn't mean somebody's red pill. There's a lot of guys with money that get completely abused by women because they're blue pill, and they think morality is bringing something to the table in dating. There is zero morality in dating. Women line up down the street for serial killers. Even the so-called good women. Our programming, our hardwiring is the same.
No one is saying you can't have Andrew Tate on your show. It's a free country. You should do what you want. What I'm saying is that if you say you're conservative, and then you have someone who truly is disgusting on, and you proceed to tout them, praise them, nod along to everything they say, cheer them, you're doing more than platforming, which, again, is fine. Platforming, the idea that you can never have a conversation. You can have a conversation with whomever you want, but there's a difference between having a conversation with a person and becoming a propagandist for that person. If you're a person, for example, who purports to stand for biblical values or American values or traditional values, you probably have a more...
Again, this is just more virtue signaling. I've had enough of the virtue this is where Daily Wire loses the plot. It's just endless. I am moral. I am the moral one.
Moral obligation, not probably, you certainly have a moral obligation to ask Andrew Tate, who is a self-stated bad man, hard questions about his actions and his beliefs and his past. Not to, as so many on the right have, help him falsely rewrite his legal record or ignore all of the things he's actually said while nodding enthusiastically.
Now, right now, he has not been convicted of a crime. If that changes in the future, we can revisit it. But right now, he is a free man. He has not been convicted of a crime. And the other thing we all know is that when men are in the justice system, Conor McGregor just was found guilty in civil court. I didn't think he was guilty of that crime either. Okay, let's keep going.
See, here's the thing. Andrew Tate, now he's trying to play himself off as a politician. He's not. He's an influencer. He's an online troll. That's really what he is. Now he's trying to start some sort of party in the UK. But he's not a conservative politician.
Now remember, Ben Shapiro didn't like Trump either. And this is the challenge, is guys like Ben and like the more of the dorky, nerdy guys, they never took the time to learn charisma and people skills because they just never had to. They worked a lot of hours. They never had to do it, right? And so they get ticked off when the charming guys come in and get better results than them in all things. When Tate comes in and has more influence than him. When Tate comes in and is running for office. Now, I'm not saying Tate's going to win. I don't know. I don't know if he has the right experience to be running, to be a politician. We'll see. But I want to go more into the psychology of this.
For example, trying to push conservative policies, where part of the job of the interviewer is separating out his agenda from his personal behavior. Like, what does the public get out of this person versus what they do in their private life? That is a question typically reserved for politicians. That's not what he is. He's an online troll, and he revels in precisely the evils conservatives hate. That is his entire, like, not some of it, his entire self-stated persona. If you don't ask about that, you're not doing your job as a conservative.
Okay, Ben, where was this video for Nala, who is grifting Christianity? That was at your company. Your company also falsely accused Steven Crowder of being an abuser. You guys never issued a retraction, ever. So am I going to take you seriously when now you're virtue signaling about Tate?
Conservative, as a traditional person, a person with actual values. Now, listen, I understand the appeal of Andrew Tate. I get it. I've seen his stuff. He's really charismatic. And for decades, the hatred of traditional masculinity in our society has been so strong, so thoroughgoing throughout the media, throughout politics, from our institutions, from our colleges, everywhere, that people, including people on the right, have run away from traditional masculinity altogether. And they've sort of feminized what masculinity is supposed to be.
Now, we're going to go into this, right? What he's going to do is the only masculinity that's celebrated is going to be the masculinity that's in the service of women. If there's any masculinity that benefits the man, like a man making a lot of money, spending it on a fast car, he's going to shame it. To conservatives, all things masculinity have to be spent on women. Women can put themselves on OnlyFans, but if a guy puts the woman on OnlyFans, if the guy says, you know what, let's make more money, you can work for me, then he's the bad guy. The male sex drive is strong. That's part of masculinity. If a guy chooses to sleep with multiple women, that's shamed. That's said, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But if women wait till 32 to have a kid, they don't bat an eye, they don't say anything. Even though women are essentially doing the same thing. Okay, let me keep going.
Young men for at least a generation, maybe two, have basically been told they were useless at best and toxic at worst. And that leaves a giant vacuum, a vacuum for somebody who can sort of cosplay masculinity. And Tate fills that vacuum with his form of masculinity. But masculinity has good iterations, and it also has really, really ugly iterations. And the iteration that Andrew Tate pushes is not a responsible masculinity, a traditional masculinity that is all about channeling the sort of testosterone-fueled side of man into protecting women and children and civilization and building good things, but the kind of masculinity that tears everything good down, sort of barbarian masculinity that is interested in destroying rather than building. Now, Andrew Tate plays a WWE heel. He knows it. I mean, he's not making any bones about this. He released a video yesterday, a very long 21-minute video, rambling video, sitting in a jacuzzi in cold weather, smoking a hookah, and basically saying that he wants to be the most hated man on earth and that he makes money off of that. And he's telling the truth about that. That part is true.
And again, that's part of masculinity. It's men don't care what other people think like women do. Women are much more concerned about our reputation. Some men, they could be the most hated guy on the planet. They don't care. He doesn't mind.
But here is the thing. Andrew Tate is, at best, a crap sandwich. He presents totally differently to different audiences. So, for people, sort of traditional people on the right, when he's in interviews with them, he will present as a sort of low-rent, anti-feminist talking head. Doesn't know much, but he's saying the things that need to be said, bashing left-wing wokeism.
Ben, you guys do the exact same thing. You barely touch family court. A lot of the things that you talk, and I want you guys to understand why. Conservatives have to keep the women working. If your wife is running up the credit card and spending 80% of the household income, and part of that is money for Ben, they have to keep women working. They can't go after family court. So what do? They go after low-hanging fruit. Trans issues, that's low-hanging fruit. I've played volleyball since I was like 10. And I had one tournament that a trans person was in. And to be frank, guys, women supported it. The men there, they didn't support it. Women sometimes just shoot ourselves in the foot. So he's doing the exact same thing.
And then, to the crazier side of the internet, he'll present as an anti-Semitic radical who's willing to violate any taboo for the fringes. And then, when he's sitting down with someone actually conservative, he'll pretend he's an upstanding person who cares about family values and that he's been out of the sort of scam business for a while. In the end, what he really is a con artist. And he's actually kind of an evil con artist. Not kind of, if you believe the allegations against him, and there are a lot.
Ben, you had Destiny on. Destiny. Destiny is known. He is known for sleeping with all the women he streams with. They have sex tapes on the internet. But because that's good for business, you guys didn't bring that up. No, bring up the important points.
Lots of them. an actually evil con artist. Even if you just believe the stuff he said about himself, what he says is evil. He made his money off of cam girls, which is to say he is a self-professed pimp, and he made his money grooming women for the industry. Now, all the people on the right who are very upset, correctly, about the grooming gangs in Britain are going to have to explain why they're...
This is, again, it's going back to the morality police. Now, I'm going to Google right now, what percent of men watch porn? 70% of American men, approximately 70% of American men and 40% of women watch online porn. So odds are he's probably on the other end of it, okay? Other thing I want to bring up is the way that conservatives see women is they see women as these angelic creatures who can do no wrong. They see when women are sexual, they always blame the sexuality on the men. It's men grooming them. It's the other thing that's really low-hanging fruit is they'll say, oh, feminism convinced women to do this. No, there's no morality in dating. So I made a little PowerPoint. I made this really quick, so you'll have to. So a lot of times what happens is this is Hitler. Now we could agree, not the best guy. I know that's a dispute nowadays. Okay, I know that's a dispute. But can we, for the sake of it, say not the greatest person ever? Okay. Now, this was his wife. What would you guys rank his wife 1 to 10? I know this was the 20s, so you know, you can't really see the body. The women actually covered up back then. But would you guys agree higher than a 6? What about okay, 6 or what? She's a cool person? Yeah, if you read about her. She committed suicide with Hitler because she loved him so much. He got a goodnight kiss every single night. You know what I mean? Like, she loved him so much that she committed suicide with him. Now, I mean, they might have killed her anyway. Okay, but that's the point. There's no morality in dating. The most moral people, there was this idea that like the most moral people get the best outcomes. Like the most stand up, the best men are going to have happy marriages, and the players, they're the ones, they're going to get karma someday. And I'm telling you, go watch 10 videos of men that were divorce raped. Do they seem like bad guys? Women are more likely to stay with abusive men. And I know because the cope is always, well, that's just the bad women. There's these good women out there. Look, there's worse and better. There's higher risk and lower risk women, right? There's, women with married parents, women that were raised by crackheads. You could argue one's better than the other on a balance of probabilities, but we're still women. One woman might be going for the drug dealer. One woman might be going for the promoter at the club. Anyways, now these are the dorky guys. Now, I'm a bit of a dork too. I'm not judging, but I'm just being objective here. Okay, it takes one to know one. Now, the people that are more dorky have not gone through the trouble of learning charisma. That's such a great skill. And the men like Hitler, I don't like to say this, but the guys, maybe I don't want to get YouTubed up. The men that are the same arc, I'll say the bad boys, because I don't want to say his name too much in this stream, just because I don't want YouTube to come get me. But the bad boys have taken the time. There's either the natural ones, the guys that have just been smooth talkers from a young age, or the ones who slept with 1 million women, spoke to 1 million women, got really jacked, like did all the things. We have like 1 million standards. So they've gone through the journey of charm. Now, these guys, the men that have gone through the journey of charm, they're getting the 22-year-olds throwing themselves at them. So these guys will come in and say things like compatibility is important, right? They'll say like, oh, like that, we have to be in the same socioeconomic background. These guys, they know it's not important. Even though, well, it was to this guy. Sorry, bad example. But so these guys, when they see women being overly sexual because they've never seen that side of women, a lot of men never see it. Their wives aren't that way with them. They think the women are being groomed, because Ben Shapiro told the story of how he met his wife. he had to beg his wife to marry him. This is his words. He said, "My wife, I asked her to marry me. She told me no, and then later said yes." Do you think that Hitler had to beg his wife to marry him? There's no morality in this. Now, again, when women are younger, they're more naked. When they get older, they start putting clothes on. That's just kind of how it works. So, oh wait, hold on. So these guys have only really seen the women after their slut phase. They get them in the born again Christian phase. And you know, like, for example, most of them will meet their wives in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're going to come to them like the Virgin Mary, like they weren't in the club like 2 years ago. Now, the thing is, the bad guys of the world, they know that women like the raunchy stuff more than men. It's not the men that want to tie up the women. If you look at the porn that women watch more violent porn than men. If you look at the shows that women watch, it's about serial killers. It's The Handmaid's Tale, which is a show about women that get tied up and raped once a month, that they're literal sex slaves. And this is what we choose to watch. 62% of women admit to having rape fantasies. And remember, there's an incentive here. It's higher. But again, these guys only get the dorky guys. They don't get that side. Because when women get closer to 30, we become more in survival mode. We got to pick something for long term. Nose. Sorry. Okay. Now, the other thing is that the women of today are sex workers. We're already doing it. You know, if I have a private investigator coming on my show telling me that over a quarter of women under 35 are sex workers, if I go look at the number of women on OnlyFans, it matches. These guys will say, well, you're inflating the numbers. No way. These guys will say, I am not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Could have told you that. That's why I put my wife in a burqa. The Muslims know. Oh, they said always keep a pair of handcuffs next to the bed. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do, what not to do. You guys are men. Do what you want with your life. All I'm saying is that you're going to notice there's tells that men don't know. Naive men become targets because women with experience know that they will never even bother to look into their past. You know, that's why a lot of church guys, they just get raked through the coals because they haven't slept with enough women to know the difference.